Hi, I'm Flip Nicklin. Welcome to Humpback Chronicles. Today I'd like to tell the story of Frank. Frank was the sixth animal we saw on March 10th, 1979. It was the first singer we saw where you could actually see them singing down below the surface, and it was a story that goes way beyond the quality or the beauty of the picture itself. I was working doing production stills on an IMAX film called Nomads of the Deep, and one of the things we were trying to photograph was singing humpback whales. And we didn't know how to do that. We'd see the whales come up, go down, come up again 20 minutes later, a quarter mile apart. Often we'd go down what we figured was in the middle of that path and go down to 100 feet with scuba and just wait and hope the whale came by. They never did. But when you were waiting, it was really loud. You're just sure that the whale was going to appear out of the gloom any minute, and you're going to shoot that singing whale as it came by. We were working with Dr. Jim Darling, who was a grad student at the time, and he was recording whale song. And he'd go up to the point when the whale dove down, right up to the slick part, something we called a footprint, drop in a hydrophone, and get as good a recording as he could, being as close to the whale as he could. On March 10th, 1979, the assistant with Jim looked down over the side at the hydrophone, saw the whale down below, and they called us over thinking maybe we could photograph the whale, maybe even get a picture of its genitals to tell the sex of the whale. It's common practice now to find whales down below the slick, down below where they dived, hanging still 50 feet below the surface, in this case right up along the sand. And since we can find the singer, we could dive down, photograph it singing, and dive down below and actually shoot a picture of genitals and find out the sex of the animal. Everyone we've ever worked on now for decades has been a male. But for the film crew, it was revolutionary. The idea that not just shooting passing whales and talking about the science, but actually photographing the singing behavior we were talking about changed everything. My father had been working for years coming to Hawaii, photographing whales, talking about singers. Frank was the first time we could actually photograph the singing whale singing underwater. On March 17th, 1979, St. Patrick's Day, my last day in Hawaii on this film job, I had breakfast with Jim Darling at the Pioneer Inn. And on that day, we decided I would come back the next season as a volunteer just to photograph singers. I realize now how important that picture of Frank was to me and to my career. And in the next few weeks, in an interview with Dr. Jim Darling, you'll see how important Frank was to his career, to the science of studying whales, and the change in his path of doing just that. We would see Frank and his very distinctive tail a number of times in the next 20 years. The last time I photographed him underwater was in 1997. And at that time, I knew how important he was. But when I took that first picture, I wasn't that excited about the picture. I didn't know how important it was. It wasn't a great picture. I think you'd agree it's an okay picture of a whale underwater, but it's a really, really important picture, something I didn't really realize till many years later. So once in a while, people ask, what's your favorite whale? And I know they mean killer whales or humpback whales or sperm whales. But if I'm asked what my favorite whale is, I don't even hesitate. My favorite whale is Frank. I'm reminding myself here to talk about the technical aspects of the photograph. This was taken with an Iconis 2, I believe, with a 15 millimeter lens. The film stock was Kodachrome 64. Everything was manual, and probably this was taken at a 30th of a second. Maybe at f4, but I'm guessing. There's no metadata from that old stuff. And it was taken scuba diving. Free diving wasn't as big a deal. It would be, but it was the start. We got as close as we could scuba diving. Later on, I would free dive down to take the underwater picture of the belly of the whale, of the genitals to tell the whale was a male. And that was really the important picture. Well, thanks again for coming along. And of course, thank you very much for your support. Bye-bye.